Fuck yeah, man, what a fucking glorious weekend, hey?
That was epic, dude.
Dude.
It was incredible.
It's probably one of the coolest weekends of my life. We're here at Bitcoin Alove. Some of the conversations, I missed a lot of the conference, unfortunately. I was doing a lot of podcasts and stuff, but you were working at the conference, man, and you were just running around absolutely everywhere. What were some of the standout things over the weekend?
Mate, probably meeting Julian Assange's brother. That was a highlight for me, for sure. And being so highly regarded as myself, it was cool to be backstage and having a chat with him and just picking his brain and seeing sort of the stress that he has to deal with. That was probably the highlight, which is interesting to say, but all of it was crazy. Hanging out with Erik Cason, that was
what a guy, hey man.
Wow.
Yeah,
brainiac for sure.
Absolutely crazy. One of the things, because I got to sit down with Eric, which was amazing. When you read his book, he seems so radical, but you see him in person, man, and he sounds very optimistic. Obviously, he's on the Bitcoin stand and has been for a long time. So maybe he doesn't, even though he describes the world as nihilistic, maybe he doesn't see it so much for himself because he has got Bitcoin. But what were some of the conversations like? With Eric, we went so deep into so many things, religion and politics and fiat slavery and the panopticon. What were some of the key takeaways from Eric?
What I enjoyed most was seeing the way that his brain processes different stimulus.
Yeah.
You can always see the cogs turning. He's pretty switched on, and he can talk about anything.
Yeah.
And he knows about everything.
Yeah.
And it was pretty surreal. I own 2 of his books now because I didn't know he was going to be at the conference. Silly me. I probably should have planned that. So I ended up getting one of his books again.
Nice,
and,
signed.
So that one's not getting touched.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in pristine condition. If anybody wants some sats for it, send me some sats and signed copy. Anyone preferably with the name Rory.
Dear Rory, yes, this one's for me.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So you'll have to
69,420 sats, ladies and gentlemen, signed copy.
Beauty. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, auctioneer.
Absolutely. What were some of the other highlights? Like, there's some really cool people: Peter Dunworth, Michael Dunworth, Daniel Batten. The list went on. Tip. Robbie P was insane, that live performance there. What were some of the other key takeaways or conversations, man?
Mate, I'd like to say I was taking in all the stuff, all the different events and all the different speakers, but there was no chance. I was running around like a headless chicken. Yeah. And it was just cool to be able to. You know what I felt like? I felt like a cattle dog herding people, herding sheep. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was always.
Well, you had your muster list, and you're like, "Come on, guys! Like, you are going here, whether you like it or not. You are on stage now."
Yeah, and it was awesome. I was brutally telling people you need to get backstage, and it was like, and
they're like, "Who's this dude?" Like, man, I'm a Bitcoiner. Do what I say. It's like, I'm a Bitcoiner. I'm not going to do what you say. You are on stage.
No, everyone was really receptive.
Of course,
it wasn't even that bad. It was. Don't backtrack. Don't backtrack.
Rory's a prick. YRL.
Yeah. That was man. It was cool to meet you in person.
Oh, man, wasn't it so sick?
And we're doing this in person.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, what Bitcoin does is just it connects everybody.
Yeah,
and it's crazy.
So one of the thoughts, this was obviously my first Bitcoin conference, really meeting up, and to be around Bitcoiners instead of normies, man, I felt normal for the first time in a very, very, very long time. Maybe to be around that many Bitcoiners, people that put in the proof of work, to be surrounded by so many people and actually still feel normal. Like, generally, if I'm with that many people, there's no way I'm going to connect with everyone. But that's what I found happened here. So I guess a good question is, a lot of people will be like, if you don't have one Bitcoin or whatever it is, don't go to a Bitcoin conference, because all they're going to do is just tell you the reasons why to buy Bitcoin. We all know you just need to buy, stack and chill. Like, that's super easy, pretty straightforward on that one. But it wasn't really about listening to what they had to say. I already know to buy, stack and chill. It was more about the meeting the people. Do you think people should go along to Bitcoin events, or they're better to buy Bitcoin with the dirty fiat?
I reckon it's better to buy Bitcoin, sell your dirty fiat, but there's so many free groups
Yep.
and meetups all around. Like, I'm in Yeah, I'm like a venereal disease. I'm in every Bitcoin group in Australia, and I'm also in one in Bali. And the plan is to go and I've met a lot of these people in the groups. And I'm like, yo, there's one in Perth. Perfect. Sign me up. So I'm in that group. So when I'm in Perth, boom. Or if they're having an event in Perth, I can go straight over. But I tell you what's really interesting. My friend going along to a Bitcoiner meetup is you're expecting nerds, which you get.
Yeah.
You get highly regarded people in those events, but it's a weird way to find out you're autistic.
Yeah.
You hear all about these brainiacs, and then you go to a Bitcoin meetup and you go, "Wow, these guys are really cool."
Yeah.
You're like, it's a strange way to find out you're autistic.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
You can see everyone's just operating at such a high frequency, and their thoughts are so far ahead. And then you're like, okay, like these are my people. I can understand that. I see that. You make the world make sense for me. Again, it's super cool.
It's so weird that these people are having these such intricate and high-level thoughts.
Yeah.
But then you can literally just mingle into a conversation and not only just sit there and listen, you can be the dumbest person in the room, but then it's like a hive mind. You pick up the intelligence of the room, and then you can start contributing to those conversations, and it changes the way that you articulate yourself and the way that you communicate, and everyone is so... It's not even a... I want to say it's such a weird experience being able to just rock up to a group that you only saw and you're like, I wonder what those guys are talking about. You stand in the vicinity of the people talking, and then they open up, and then they just involve you in the conversation, and then you sit there and you listen, and it could be about anything. It could be about how solar arrays are ebbs and flows with the solar production, and how Bitcoin mining could contribute to all of that aspect. And I'm not a big brain guy. I'm the dumbest person in those rooms, so it's really good to be a part of those conversations and sit there, and then that tweaks your interest. So you can be a part of a conversation, understand and pick out little bits of that information. And for myself, I seem like I can go and I got a really good memory. So when I go on to another group, I go, hey, you know who was talking about that?
Yeah.
This guy. Hey, what are you doing? Come here. And you can be really abrupt and blunt.
Yeah.
And people are so receptive, and it's just... I went to the first Bitcoin Bush Bash in Marundai, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Somebody thinks exactly... And it's not just somebody, it's everybody. Everybody thinks the same. And you're like, dude, I've never been to a Bitcoin meetup. And I was like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I guess my only regret was not going to one sooner. It's like, to go through this journey, Bitcoin can make you feel pretty isolated, especially if you aren't around other Bitcoin people. And we understand, we've put in the proof of work, we've read the books, but without Bitcoin, it really feels like there's hardly any hope in the world. And so you want to bring people along to the place where there is hope, where your life continuously gets better. And maybe if you buy at the top, your life isn't going to change straight away. You're going to have to wait for another 4-year cycle. But 4 years to change your life, like, that's absolutely amazing, like significantly change your life. If you buy at the top and you study hard and you're buying through those dips all the way down, it's nice just to be with people where you can just be yourself. You don't need to dive, like what you were saying before, you can just be abrupt and blunt and dive in. And you don't need to worry about hurting anyone's feelings. Nobody's pretentious. There's none of this wokeism bullshit. Nobody's chopping anything off at these events. But everyone's just based. Like, everyone's just based and grounded in reality. And I believe that's because Bitcoin aligns everyone back with the truth.
Yeah, that is so true. And once you go to one of these events, you have to go to every event.
Yeah.
And that's how it has been for me. November, I went and met my people, and then I was in Victoria for Beechworth Bush Bash last weekend.
Yeah.
Doing proof of work for Bitcoin Alove. I plan on going to Cairns in for the next Bush Bash. I want to go to the Bush Bash, which is maybe I shouldn't be saying, but come along to those events. And I want to go to all the meetups. I want to go to Perth, and when you travel and you go backpacking and you meet people in the backpack, in the hostel, and you have these close experiences with people, and you form such a close relationship within such a short time frame. And then when you depart ways and they go back to their country, or they go on traveling, or you go off because you've got your travel plans, And it's like breaking up with a girlfriend. It's worse than breaking up with a girlfriend. You're like, man, if you're ever in Australia, you come over. Have you ever in Chile, bro? Come hang out. You're like, dude, and it's crazy that emotion that gets put out. And Bitcoin is just that on steroids. It's and everyone thinks the same. Obviously, not everyone thinks exactly the same, but
of course,
on pretty much every level that you feel isolated on as a Bitcoiner, you realize that the high level conversations that you're having within these events is the most addictive thing you can experience. It's crazy. Bitcoin is a hell of a drug.
Bitcoin is a hell of a drug. It's like when you talk to normies and you say, oh, you should buy Bitcoin. They're like, nah, that's a scam or whatever. So they don't agree with your thought. It's like Bitcoiners. You may say something and they may not agree with your thought, but unlike a normie, they'll give you a reason in their thesis because they've thought about it. Or if they haven't thought about it and they don't think that it resonates, they'll be willing to ask questions and learn about it and be like, no, that's a scam, like I'm out of here. You know, like everyone is just continuously trying to learn, to improve, to be able to grow, to be able to maybe even work out whether Bitcoin isn't the right thing. They may hear that thing and be like, okay, no, like that fundamentally changes everything. I feel like that's what I'm always doing. I'm trying to look for a reason why Bitcoin won't work. I've managed to find one, 8,000 hours in, and it still hasn't come. It's eluded me. So if anyone watching's got a reason why Bitcoin doesn't work, let us know. But I don't know. What do you think some of the things are that could come in? Obviously, BlackRock. I always thought it was going to be a little bit of an attack. I think you don't get the self-sovereignty that you get with Bitcoin. We've got a beautiful chopper here. We'll
it's let not the Shark Patrol or the Westpac. It's just a standing chopper, if anyone was wondering.
Robinson R44, nice piece of kit. Man, when I was a young kid and I was doing this apprenticeship, we used to work out of that and we'd sling these big radio repeater towers underneath them and then drop them on the top of a hill, and there's all these trees so you couldn't land, so you'd need to jump out of the helicopter and you'd throw the chainsaws out and stuff, and that was freaking epic. And then you chop down the trees to be able to clear a pad, to be able to put this thing up and have a helipad and stuff. And the cowboys on it were wild. So instead of using horses to muster, they'd use the choppers. And they had an R22, so we're using the R44 to carry it, but the R22, just a little two-seater, a smaller one. And he's like, you want to go for a joy flight? I'm like, yeah, sure, I love aerobatics, flying, fixed wing. And then he's in this, and the grass is about this high. And the skid's halfway through, and there's just seeds just smashing over the dome bubble. And just hooking along, and there's a tree, I don't know, if you can see it, ladies and gentlemen, probably 30 meters away roughly, and he's just racing towards this tree and then just pulls it up and then just throws it and then just throws you into there, and fucking TikToks is the scariest, most wild thing that I've ever been. There's a bit of a side note, but I think one of the things when Bitcoiners are getting together is, like you're saying in a backpack, is it's because everyone's going on this adventure, and it may not necessarily be physical, out here climbing on the rocks, but although that is happening a lot, it's the adventure of the mind. It's still an adventure, it's still a journey, but it's just happening on such an intellectual level, and I think you bond over that.
Yeah, absolutely. The way that I look at it in terms of, if you have a conversation with someone, with a normie, and they just cut you off, nah, you're wrong, nah,
yeah,
you're full of shit, nah, not at all. But with Bitcoiners, it's more of the aspect of coming from, you're a kid, I want to touch the stove, and your parents are like, don't touch the stove, and you go, why? And they go, because I said so. That's a normie.
Yeah.
And you're like, but why? Because you said so. Who are you to say? I said so, But if you come at it and you go, I want to touch the stove, and they go, why? And you go, well, because you could potentially hurt yourself. I don't know how hot it is. If it is really hot, 3rd-degree burns. It's not going to be pleasant. You go, okay. And you go, well, what if I just hover it? Well, then you can feel the heat. And you can go through this whole process of describing and learning why not to do something, but at the same time, still making your own decision whether or not you want to touch that hot plate. And then if you do decide to touch the hot plate, yeah, fuck, should have done that.
You learn a lot quicker. I think that's a real cool way. So before we went on the tangent with the R44 and the R22 helicopters there, BlackRock, I was pretty against him coming in. I don't think you're self-sovereign if you're holding the ETF. We'll see what happens later in the future, whether they capture it, whatever happens. At the moment, it's definitely going to lead to number go up. For this cycle at least, I don't think it's any problem. They will, they'll bring a lot of liquidity in, but they'll also take a lot of liquidity out. Is there anything that you're either excited for or really hoping doesn't happen this cycle?
I don't think there's anything. I hope it doesn't go parabolic this cycle because I don't have enough. is the first thing. But what I'm excited about is how we can use Bitcoin in the future as a collateral to play within the fiat system.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that the fiat system is going to be destroyed. I don't think that it is going to be taken down by hyper-Bitcoinization, although I'd like to think that that is what would happen.
Do you mean never or in a short period of time?
In my lifetime, I don't think so. I like the idea of being able to operate within a circular economy similar to what, or exactly what El Salvador is doing, with their being on a Bitcoin standard, having it as legal tender. I really like that. I was talking to Paul, and he was mentioning how he would rather buy something with fiat, stack your sats, where I would rather you've got your stack, sell your fiat for sats, then pay in sats. So that way I'm contributing to the network, I'm giving to the miners, I'm participating in this circular economy, where he's like, oh, no. My sats are my sats, and I'll get rid of this dirty fiat.
I probably align more with Paul, but I am changing that more and more. I've obviously got cold, deep storage that'll never see the light of day, and then we've got some for...
Pierce?
Not yet.
You might get paranoid about how deep and cold that is.
Yeah, probably not. Where I've gone down working with the Bitcoin Way, I've absolutely no worries with it. Yeah. So shout out to the Bitcoin Way. Link in the description. First 30 minutes is free. Awesome plug, man. But yeah, it can be scary. If you are putting something into cold storage, say for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, or ultimately to hand on forever, you want to be freaking sure, man. And you also, once you do it, it's not a set and forget. Things can change, quantum computers or whatever can come out. There could be an undiscovered bug in the code. That is still a possibility, although it's the most looked at code in human history. There could still be something, or someone could come out with something to intercept it. Likely, probably not. But you still don't just do it once and then that's it, stay on top of it. But you do want to be in a place where you can sleep easy and do it. And then, so cold storage, deep storage, in a vault, basically. And then the parallel economy. But waiting for that with the parallel economy is putting the fiat in there, waiting for that to double, and then using that in the economy. So it doesn't matter what price I buy it, keep topping that up. But as time goes on, using a bit of that to be able to just go more and more onto the Bitcoin standard. But then now also just moving a couple of $100 into the Lightning wallet as well. And if there's an opportunity to be able to do it, Michael Dunworth sent me some Satoshis yesterday. He's like, bro, what's your Lightning wallet? I'm like, here? He's like, cool, here's some Satoshis, bro. I'm like, what for? And he's like, I'm like, okay, thanks, Michael. He's like, it's for the show, man. Oh man, what a Chad, what an absolute legend. But it's so cool. It's instant. We could be on the opposite sides of the world, and he's sending Satoshis, and he's just having fun. So that'll be a cool pod that comes out as well. But that Bitcoin circular economy, it feels better, doesn't it? You're like, yeah, F you bankers, F the banks. I don't need you anymore.
That is the best way that I orange pill mates around the world.
Yeah.
Even mates that are on travelling holidays. So, I'm not the most obsec conscious Bitcoiner.
You should be.
No. Yeah, no, I'm not. So, coming to these events, you realise why that is a necessity as well.
Yeah.
But it's, then you become around Bitcoiners and
Just on that, why? Why is your OPSEC not as good? Because you don't feel comfortable doing things yourself?
Oh, no. That is OPSEC is not letting people know that you know what Bitcoin is. I'll give you an example of a friend of mine that I literally just met in Beechworth and been hanging out with all weekend. He mentions to give you an idea, Satoshi could be walking among us and you wouldn't know because...
We're all Satoshi except Craig, right?
Absolutely. He could be walking among us and you wouldn't know because the most secure way to protect yourself against phishing attacks and potential $5 wrench attacks is to say to someone who asks you, hey, do you know about Bitcoin? To say, what's Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And then have them explain it and be like, oh, that makes sense. It's really cool.
Yeah.
That is the most anonymous way to protect your stack because this is such it's an interesting time. Once we're all on the Bitcoin standard, maybe that'll change. But the OBSEC. So on that note, I'm not the most OBSEC.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
We're definitely not. Out of all people, Rory talks to absolutely everyone. And total stitch up at the coffee shop. He's like, bro, go into the coffee shop and ask to pay in Bitcoin. The guy started accepting Bitcoin. I go in there and the guy looks at me and he's like, your freaking mate, wasn't it? He came in here. I'm like, well, you're not accepting Bitcoin? He's like, nah, man. And I'm like, oh, I had fun staying poor. He was good about it. But total stitch up. But Rory will literally orange pill the world. Every single person, they look at him funny, he'll be like, you need to buy Bitcoin.
Or if they don't look at me funny. Even if they don't look at me.
Yeah.
Hey.
You're like, hey, you're enjoying the view? You need to buy some Bitcoin.
You heard the good word of Satoshi.
Yeah. No, actually, I don't feel for Craig. Fuck you, Craig. Don't you feel like that's so insane? Do you believe that he believed his own BS or just a scammer?
I only really like to comment on things that have a general understanding for or have questions on.
Yep.
I've been watching a heap of his stuff. Well, over the last month, when the COPA trial was going on, I was like, who is this guy? So I dove deep, and I had a conversation with him when I became a Bitcoiner.
Yeah. Because
I didn't have any friends as Bitcoiners, and I made some pretty big life decisions in terms of what I was going to do to become a Bitcoiner.
Yeah.
And I was searching for avenues, and I was going down that rabbit hole and finding all this different information. So I hit him up, and I thought, if this guy thinks he's Satoshi, let me ask him some questions, but that was it. So I just had a small interaction with him, and then I sort of understand what he's doing, but I'm not a technical guy. I'm a people person. I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
And I'm not a things orientated person, as you can probably tell from this weekend. I'm a people person. So that's my skill, is connecting people, which is really good in the Bitcoin world, but. What he thinks, I have to. There's always three sides to every story. Your side, my side, and the truth. So we've got one side and one view. He has one side, one view, and I haven't been able to have that third-person view of the overall situation to understand and recognise whether or not he's full of shit or he's truthful. And I don't know enough about how Bitcoin works. I thought I did. And then I went to a Bitcoin meetup and I went, oh, I'm retarded.
Yeah.
And then...
highly regarded.
Highly regarded. Sorry, yes. Highly regarded, absolutely. I can't formulate an opinion on things that I haven't, or I don't have a curiosity for, not a curiosity, because there's definitely curiosity, but I haven't found the information where I can create my own questions to have an outside look and then have a think about it, because I can't comment on that sort of stuff. It's like price predictions. I'm like, dude, I just stack
it'll
and
be
chill.
what it'll be.
Yeah.
Why stack and chill? That's fair enough. So
I don't buy it, I just stack it.
Yeah.
You buy it. What a loser.
$5 wrench attacks. Rory's walking around. Oh, I'll put that down. So what are you thinking about around Bitcoin at the minute? What's getting you lit up?
How we can use it as a as a collateral to play in the fiat game.
Yeah, we sort of touched on that. What else?
Mate, that's been my... On the Craig note, I can't comment because I don't have the thoughts.
Yeah.
This is what's taking up my space. I was berating. Just I was hammering into people at Bush Bash to the point where they're probably like, who the hell is this dude? Because I'm trying to understand it. I'm like,
nobody's saying who the hell is this dude. They're like, oh, it's Rory again. Here we go.
Yeah, you either love me or hate me, and
everyone loves Rory.
And that's the funny thing in the Bitcoiner community. I don't have the hatred. Whereas in the Norman community, you love me or hate me.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you hate me at the start.
Everyone's like, oh, you're crazy. And if they're willing to listen a little bit, they're like, oh, okay, I can understand. But most people are like, no, that's too much. You're making me think, man.
Well, you don't have that problem when you're around Bitcoiners.
That's right.
And in the terms of, oh man, you're too much for me. I go, or they're like, oh, I can't handle this. I'll just keep pushing that button. I'm really good at that. But that's not an issue with the Bitcoiners because they're happy to talk and they're happy to have an intellectual conversation and be questioned and be pushed against ideas. And I like I said with the hot plate, why? And so I was asking some OGs in the space what they think could potentially happen with using Bitcoin as collateral to borrow against. And because I come from pretty humble backgrounds, like I don't have any skills or, I've never really made much money in careers and stuff, but I've always had that fascination with money. Yeah. And I was on a pod recently, Luke Broyle's pod. He did one on a boat.
On a boat?
Yeah, I got my flippy flappers. So, and there was a guy on there. I don't know if I can name drop him or anything, but he organises the Sydney meetup. So, and this is I was hammering into him at Beach Wave because he understands. He's a tech guy, and my biggest question was, and to everybody is, what's your Bitcoin journey? Yeah. How did you get into it? Because I'm so curious because I know why I'm in it. Yeah. But why are you in it? And why are they in it? And he's a tech guy, and I said, did you come for the tech? Yeah. Or the revolution? He said, money. I've always been fascinated with money, and then he found out why money is broken and how it's broken. And then when Bitcoin came along, because he's older than us. Yeah. And he saw Bitcoin, and he goes, if I looked at it from a technical point of view, I would have looked at all these other shit coins and gone, oh, that's better tech. But he goes, I wasn't looking at it from a tech mentality, which was really strange to me because he's a tech guy. Yeah. And so I'm finding that Bitcoin as intelligent as they are, they see it for what it is, not what
makes it up potentially.
Yeah, and that's where like you come in, you get in it for number go up, and then you stay for the revolution, and you realize why it's hope and what it can contribute to, and Bitcoin is a hell of a drug, man. Bitcoin is a hell of a drug.
How are you with Ryman? I'm absolutely hopeless. I was talking to Robbie yesterday. He's just laying down these bars, man, and just spitting. But are you good at making words rhyme together?
When I'm switched on?
Yeah, cool. All right. Pretty early, so I'll make something up and then you make something up and we'll see if we can get a little bit of a jingle. This is going to be the most cringeworthy thing that has ever...
I don't know if I want to participate in this.
You don't have a choice. So buy, stack and chill. I'm here with Rory and we're talking about the orange pill. Cool.